The next thing we're going to do with an ostrich feather is something you've probably seen me do before, but it's still important, so I still want to mention it. We're just going to do a classic turn on an ostrich feather, and that's where the tip of the feather rolls over. You might have seen me do this before. They kind of look like the Prince of Wales feathers when I do them this way. But again, they add a lot of depth, dimension, and texture to the feathers. Once again, feathers are just like hair, so we're going to give this one a haircut. As you can see, we've got a natural twist happening in this one, and I don't want that for this particular look, so we're going to give that a trim. This one has a bit of a twist, as you can see right here, and while that could be interesting, it's not really right for this project, so I'm going to give that a little bit of a haircut. Where the twist happens, we're just going to give it a little snip. Once again, never throw these away. We have a purpose for these later. Now, if you look at the tip of the feather, it looks like I cut the feather. So we're just gonna taper this down so that it looks a bit more natural. If only I did. You also have to make sure that when you're doing this, you're holding the feather upright. That's the way the feather is going to sit at the end product, so you want to make sure the way that you're adjusting this is the way it's going to be seen. Now, after you've done your initial adjustment, give it a shake. Does it look natural? Does it look the way you want? If not, go in and trim a little bit. Not too much though. Again, you can't put it back on. You can always take more off. So now that the feather looks full and lush, I'm going to give this a bit of a turn. I want this to angle inward and over. This is going to give a lot of really pretty depth to the feather. It's going to hide any imperfections, and it's going to, again, make the final product look so much more lush. Using a flat iron, and we're just going to tap it across the base of the feather. You'll get a beautiful turn. A much different look than what we started with that weird twist in the top and a fairly uneven looking feather. So this next trick is great if you have feathers that have been damaged. Sometimes when you get a bag of feathers, there's going to be one that's missing part of the feathers on one side or looks like it's had a weird cut to it. I've got two amazing tricks that are going to look really unique on your hat, but also going to save you those feathers from meeting an otherwise untimely demise. So this is a tip to use with a feather that's damaged. Now, sometimes your feathers can come damaged, it just happens. Or in my case, you could have taken a hunk out of them because you needed to do something with that hunk and then put it back in the bag because you knew you would use it. I throw nothing out. Nothing with a feather gets thrown out. So I'm gonna do something really cool with this that you can use to save feathers as well. We're gonna get rid of all of these beautiful tufts on this side of this feather and just cut them off with scissors, or if you have some stress you'd like to get rid of in your life, just rip them off. So now that we've taken the feathers off of one side, we just have that center spine and then beautiful feathers on one side. So as you can see, all of the beautiful frothy feathery bits are off of this side. It's just a solid spine. We're now gonna use a good old-fashioned curling iron. Yes. We're gonna put the spine directly against the curling iron. Now make sure you don't, or do your best, not to get any of those beautiful wispy feathers in there because they'll get a little crimp in them. But if you do, it's not the end of the world. So we're gonna take our curling iron, line it up with the very tip of our feather, Put it all the way to the back of the curling iron. And then we're just gonna roll. And roll, and roll, and roll. Rolling. Oh, I can't do that, we don't have copyright. So let that sit for a minute. And the way you let this go actually will make a big deal on how it's gonna look. If you keep it this way, then the feather will spiral outwards. But if you turn it so that it's parallel with the spine of the feather, it'll actually go upwards and make a beautiful spiral upwards. I'll show you both ways. I'm gonna get this as tight as I can. If you just pull the curling iron out straight, this is what's gonna happen. Doesn't that look cool? I see you. Sorry, I'm a kid of romper room. This creates a really cool effect on the feather. And that's what happens when you just pull it out straight. I'm gonna do another one for you now where I pull it out parallel with the stem. So we're gonna do it the exact same way. Put the tip of the feather in the very base of the curling iron, close it, and then spin it around. Oh. Now you don't want to pull it too tight initially or you'll do what I just did and pull the whole feather out. That's not what you want. And also the farther down the feather you get, the better it will look. But eventually the feathers just get super tight. So we're just gonna let this sit on the curling iron for as long as we can. Again, it's hard to burn these. But this time, instead of just pulling the feathers down, I'm gonna pull out. So we've given this a few seconds to heat up. I'm gonna pull the curling iron parallel and watch it spiral off this way. Completely different look, just based off of the way that you held the curling iron. Pretty, no? Now, if you're being less conscious like I am right now and you're pulling the feathers off, be very careful when you're near the tip. The thinner the spine gets, obviously the more fragile it is. You don't want to rip the spine right at the very tip and ruin the work you've done. Take this from someone who's learned the hard way. Again, I'm constantly, like when you pull them off, you actually get a cleaner spine, but when you cut them off, you get like a bit more safety. It's that catch-22. So we're gonna start this one with a little bit of feather left on the tip. We might end up using it, we might not. We'll see how it looks. But right now, I think I'm gonna give it a bit of a haircut. Again, feathers are just like hair, so we can give them a bit of a trim. And I'm just gonna make this look a touch neater. That looks much better, don't you agree? Isn't that prettier? Once again, we're gonna take our curling iron and we're gonna start just at the base of where these feathers are. Now, right now you can see there's a natural turn to this. Lean into that. Don't go against the way the feather turns naturally. So we're gonna put our curling iron down and we're gonna get this as near the base as we possibly can. And then we're gonna wrap the stem all the way around the curling iron. Now, the farther you go down, the denser the stem becomes, and you'll feel some resistance. When you start to feel resistance, don't force it. Just slowly start to rock it. The heat will actually make the stem much softer, and if you have a little patience, you can get a lot farther down. Now, as you saw with our last feather, the way you hold the curling iron when you let it go has a big part about how it's gonna spin. If you wanted this just to spin out, you would pull straight out. I want this to spin up. So I'm gonna turn my curling iron parallel to the base of the stem and slowly let go. Gonna unfurl slowly. And a beautiful curl on the top of this feather. I don't really know if I like the way that the tip of this looks. I can try it in the hat, and if I don't like it, I can always trim it off. But always try it first. It's not that easy to put it back on, but it's super easy to trim it off. But isn't that cute? God, I love this stuff. So now that we've done a series of effects with the feathers, it's time to layer them onto the hat. So these are going to be attached to the back of the hat. You'll never see the way these are attached. So I'm going to use some E6000 as well as some clips to hold them in place. Before I actually put the E6000 on, I like to just put them together where I think I'm going to want them and flip it over. This is the best way to see if you want to tuck it in a little farther or let a little more show. That's totally up to you. What you'll want to do is run a bead of E6000 down and connect the two together. This will take a minute or two to dry, so once you've got it in the right place, grab yourself a little helper. I use this guy, but you can use clothespins, you can use paper clips, whatever you have that will help hold this in place. And then just let the feather dry. Again, you can do multiple layers all at once or let each feather dry at a time. It completely depends on you. The more time you want to spend on this, the more control you'll have, and the more you can make it look exactly the way you want to. After you get them all connected, it'll look a bit like this. This is my actual finished product. As you can see, I've got the feathers glued all the way down here, and I used multiple different styles and shapes. It gave beautiful interest and texture. I'm using a banana clip. Because I'll be wearing this with a wig, I can easily slide this between the tracks of my wig and make sure it's super secure. But again, your fastener will depend on you and your hair and how you want to wear it. By the time all is said and done, the ostrich feathers will look like this on the front. I decided to clip the curl, and we've got our beautiful newly made spade, some twisted ostrich, and then I've trimmed a few pieces to go on the back as well. You might notice we've got a lot more interest happening here as well. I'll show you how we did these with some pheasant feathers. So this might be a little bigger than the average person would want, but larger than life is just the right size for me. Don't forget to tag us at John Bede and let us know what you've done with our fabulous feathers.